Yo, what is up? Welcome back to the MMA Fight Realm. Thanks for tuning in. If you are new, it is your boy Chris, and I'm back with another picks and predictions video, this time for UFC 304. Leon Edwards taking on Belal Mohammed in the main event. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of these picks in the comments, and let me know your picks in the comments as well, man. Let's break it down. Leading off the card, we got Shauna Bannon taking on Ardelean. We're getting the low-level talent out of the way just to start off the card. Thank God. Not a lot of experience from these two. Elise taking this on short notice, but she was due to fight on Contender Series. I'm not sure when, and so she has been preparing for a fight. And Elise, she has yet to really fight anyone worth mentioning since 2016 when she fought Weili Zhang, who was crazy. She was 4-1 at the time, and she got dominated in that fight, Elise. And also she had another fight with Diana Belbita where she lost as well. Other than that, she's fought in a 3-4 opponent where she went to decision, a 40-year-old 0-1 opponent who she was able to make quick work of, and then a 2-0 opponent and an 0-3 opponent. So all her fights are the exact same for the most part. She starts very aggressive, trying to throw bombs and trying to end the fight in the first 30 seconds. And, if that doesn't work, she tends to fatigue, and opponents who have the fight IQ, like Belbita, like Weili Zhang, can take advantage of that. And, against these girls that she's fought recently who have, not much head movement or fight IQ, she's able to get the better of them. At the UFC level, I highly doubt she will be as successful. But Shauna Bannon is not anything to be talking great about either, but she has not the greatest regional scene record either. She has not really beaten any proven opponents. She at least went to decision with Bruna, Brasil, and she was able to win a round. She was being too flashy with her kicks in that fight, and they didn't have much power behind them. So I really don't know. I question the signing of both of these two. I just think if Shauna stuck to the basics like she did in the third round against Bruna, Brasil, she was able to have some success. And all the judges gave Shauna Bannon that third round. It was unanimous that she won that third round. Bruna, she was able to get the better of the striking exchanges for the most part, and it led to a decision loss for Shauna in her debut. Now Shauna, she's gone through the debut jitters, and I think she will look a lot more comfortable this time. The crowd is going to be on her side. This is very low women's MMA, and if I had to make a pick, I think Shauna Bannon gets this one done by decision. She should have the better striking, and she moves a lot, which, as I said, most of Elise's opponents, they've just been a standing target, a punching bag for her. So I think Elise will struggle with the movement, and Shauna, over the course of 3 rounds, should get the better of her. So I think Shauna gets this one done by decision and gets her first win in the UFC. Again, it's a wild card though. Next up, we got Mick Parkin taking on Lukasz Brzeski. Now, I'm just gonna make the pick here now. I'm picking Parkin by decision or late finish. I'm still not convinced Lukasz is UFC caliber. His only win in the UFC is his last opponent, Valter Walker, who is just an absolute fraud, proven to be an absolute fraud. It was a close fight though. It was a close fight because Lukasz didn't have many answers for finding a way up after getting taken down by Valter Walker, and he just had a lot of time on his back in that fight. And you can honestly make the case, if you favor grappling, that Valter won that fight. But the judges gave it to Lukasz. I'm assuming they gave it to him on damage because Valter Walker was able to rack up a lot of control time. He did get some takedowns in every single round of that fight. Lukasz, not many answers off his back. It was tough. And Lukasz, his worst round had to be the third round, where Walter Walker just had top mount for a good portion of the round, and Lukasz looked fatigued in that fight, man, in that third round. I think he's still got cardio issues. He's yet to really pick up a solid win ever since the failed steroid test after his Contender Series fight. I'm just not high on this guy. And Parkin, he's at least shown that he's better than the bottom of the barrel heavyweights in the UFC. You know, he's got wins over Pogues, wins over Mo Usman, and you know, he doesn't pack much power, but he will probably have a 20 to 30 pound size advantage in this fight. And you know, that alone, that's some good advantage to go into this fight. And Parkin, you know, he knows how to stay busy and just doesn't make many mistakes for his opponents to capitalize on. I think Lukasz, you know, he's got a puncher's chance, but Parkin hasn't shown issues with the chin. So I'm picking Parkin by decision or late finish here. I think he can get the finish if Lukasz is fatigued and just, you know, which he has, you know, tends to be fatigued going into the later rounds. Or Parkin can just ride this out, get another decision like he's been doing, and his overall volume is going to get him a win in this fight. So I'm picking Mick Parkin here by decision or late finish. Next up, we got Sam Patterson taking on Kiefer Crosbie. Another easy pick for me here, man. I think Patterson takes this one. 6-year age difference and an 8-inch reach advantage for Sam Patterson. I was not impressed with Kiefer's performance against Giuseppe. He just looks like a brawler who doesn't have much of a plan B. And, you know, at 34, I don't think that's going to be improving much. I think he's going to be a one-trick pony going forward. I saw some things I don't like about Patterson. You know, he keeps his chin high. He relies on head movement to evade shots, and that's something Kiefer Crosbie can, you know, you can make the case Crosbie can get on the inside and land some shots, maybe drop Patterson. But the reach advantage, 6'3", Patterson also very talented on the ground, although he doesn't use it offensively much. He's very talented on the ground, and that's where Kiefer tends to give up. So, you know, against the better half of the welterweights, I think Sam Patterson is going to be a fade. But Kiefer Crosbie, man, he's going to have trouble with this reach. And if Patterson is getting tagged, I think he's going to resort to the grappling. Kiefer practically gave Giuseppe that rear naked choke, man. And he gives up his back during transitions to the ground. And, you know, Patterson, 6 out of his 10 wins are by submission and 4 are by knockout. So nearly 100% finish rate. I think he's only gone to decision once. I say he gets another finish here against Kiefer Crosbie, either with the hands by making good work of his reach, or on the ground by working another submission. So I'm picking Sam Patterson there. Next up, we got top 5 flyweights. Mohammed Mokaev taking on Manel Kape. This is classic striker versus grappler matchup here. Mokaev just barely pulled off a decision win over Alex Perez in his last one, and he got it done by using his elite wrestling. You know, despite it not being the funnest to watch, there's really no denying that this guy is very skilled when it comes to the grappling and wrestling. I mean, and if you look at the level of grappling his opponents have when he's facing them, like Jafel Fieldho, Tim Elliott, Cody Durden, you know, these guys have really good grappling, and Mokaev is making these guys work. He's making not quick work, but he's making them work, and he's being put in some trouble places. He was in a bad knee bar against Jafel Fieldho, and you know, Alex Perez, it was hard to take down Alex Perez. Perez made it a tough case that he almost won that fight. But I rate the grappling of those guys much better than I rate Manel Kape. I think Manel Kape is, without a doubt, the best striker Mokaev has faced. And that's just when it comes to the striking. You know, I think these two, honestly, either one of these guys can look like a minus 400, 500 if they can implement their style from round one. If Kape is defending takedowns, I think he can make Mokaev look silly on the feet, and Mokaev is not really going to have much of a chance if this fight stays standing. Whereas if Mokaev can get this fight to the ground early and start wearing on that gas tank of Manel Kape, I think he can win rounds. And, you know, it's a tough fight. And if I have to make a pick here, I'm going to side with Mokaev, man. I think Mohammed Mokaev, very durable, has shown that he does not quit on himself. He's being put in the worst positions when it comes to these grappling exchanges and still finds a way to get a win. And, you know, that alone, him being so relentless, Manel Kape, you know, getting taken down by Matheus Nicolau, getting taken down by David Dvorak, not really showing much eagerness and work to get off of his back in those fights. He's going to have to do something different in this one. And if he keeps this one standing, like I said, he can look like a minus 500. Either one of these guys can. So, man, it's a tough pick, but I got to go with Mokaev here. I think the grappling edge is going to do him some favors, and I think he's going to win minutes in the later rounds. So give me Mohammed Mokaev either by submission or decision in this fight. Next up, we got Oban Elliot taking on Preston Parsons. Two strong wrestlers matched up against each other. Big step up in competition for Elliot here, in my opinion, though. You know, going from Val Woodburn, who's yet to get a win in the UFC, to Preston Parsons, who, you know, although he's 2-2, it's to respectable opponents. And I thought Woodburn was having good moments when the fight was standing, and he definitely had the power advantage, but the path to victory for Oban was clear, and it was the takedown. He was able to get his wrestling going, earned himself a decision win in his debut. Overall, wasn't really impressed with Oban's performance. I thought he lacked a lot in the defense, and, you know, Val Woodburn, like I said, he was having success in the striking. Huge power advantage when it comes to that fight. I gave the power advantage to Woodburn, and, you know, in this fight, you can't really say Preston Parsons is going to have a power advantage, but I just think Preston is maybe not the right matchup right now for a guy like Oban Elliot, because, you know, Preston is going to have that experience advantage. He's a great wrestler in his own regard. He's improving in the striking, and, you know, we saw that in the win against against I'm forgetting the name, Semmelsberger. We saw that in the win against Semmelsberger, and even in the loss to Trevin Giles. So, you know, this guy, he gets his wins mostly by using his wrestling, Preston Parsons. There's no denying that. But, you know, being that he's gotten it done against tougher competition, I think Parsons is going to have the better of the grappling exchanges here, and Parsons should be able to get this one done by TKO or decision. I say TKO because I think he can get a takedown on Oban Elliot, and Oban, you know, we haven't seen much of his get up game, so we are going to see it here. You know, either one of these two very capable of winning this fight, but I just think it's a big step up in competition for Oban, and Preston much more prepared for this fight. So I'm going with Preston Parsons here to get this one done by TKO or by decision. Next up, we got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Marcin Prachnio. Now, this is a close fight, man. Prachnio, point fight karate style. He likes to keep fights standing at a kicking range, and that's where he's done his best work, but he doesn't chase the finish. Doesn't chase the finish as much as us fans would like. Only one finish in the UFC, and, you know, it was against Ike Villanueva, who I do not rate highly at all. And Ike was having success, you know, crowding Prachnio, and he was trying to he was getting off his calf kicks, but eventually, man, Ike let off the pressure, and Prachnio was able to finish him with a liver shot that folded Ike. Again, not a finish that I rate highly, but honestly, I think it will be his only finish in the UFC, being that he's now 36 and he's got some cardio issues when it goes into the later rounds. If he can keep Modestas at kicking distance, I can see Prachnio winning this one by decision with his point fight style. Modestas, he got finished in the first round against Prachnio, and he did not look nearly as effective with his style as Prachnio did against Vitor Prachnio. These two, they both fought Vitor Prachnio, and Prachnio, he did get finished, but he got finished in the third. Like I said, cardio issues played a role there, and Prachnio was overall not really having much success against Vitor Prachnio either. Prachnio was at least able to deal with the power of Prachnio early, and he was able to deal with the power of Khalil Roundtree early, and work his way into a decision win in that fight. Khalil Roundtree finished Modestas Bukauskas. It's clear to me that Prachnio, he fights with a game plan and he sticks to it, no matter if he's getting hurt, no matter if the fight's not going his way. And Modestas, I think he fights with a game plan, but when he gets hurt, he tends to throw the game plan away, and he doesn't really have much of a plan B. 6-year age difference here from Modestas, though. He has been putting in work with Tom Aspinall. I think, Modestas, it's tough here. Man, I gotta pick Prachnio by decision. I was gonna pick Modestas, but I think Prachnio gets this one done. I can't see Modestas getting his wrestling going, and on the feet, it's going to be very close. But at range, I can see Prachnio chopping away with the leg kicks and the body kicks. So I gotta go Prachnio by decision in this fight, man. Next up, we got Caolan Loughran taking on short notice replacement Jake Hadley. Now, I think this is a questionable decision by Jake Hadley to take this fight. I get it's at home, and he doesn't have to travel for this one, but up a weight class and a decent wrestler in Caolan Loughran, I think this is stylistically just not the best type of matchup for Jake Hadley. The size advantage for Caolan is going to play a big role here when he decides to go to his wrestling. And Hadley, we've seen him get controlled by flyweights, so I really wouldn't be surprised if Caolan is able to get his wrestling going. Honestly, man, Hadley, he lacks the power on the feet and is dominantly a wrestler himself. So, I think the time to fade Caolan is against the bantamweights who can keep the fight standing and deliver pressure of their own. And usually when two grapplers, when they go at it, sometimes it ends up being a fist fight. But I wouldn't be too worried in this fight for Caolan if it stays standing, because Hadley, he wants to strike with a guy who has yet to be finished in his pro career. I don't really see that working out for him, being that Hadley doesn't have much finishing power. So, I gotta go Caolan here. I think he gets this one done either by finish or decision. Just too many advantages riding for him in this fight, and the short notice for Jake Hadley also going to play a big role here. So I gotta go Caolan here by finish or decision. Next up, we got Molly McCann taking on Bruna, Brasil. Molly looked good in her last fight. First round armbar finish, her first submission win in her career, and she mixed all her tools to get that sub. She got 2 takedowns, almost doubled Diana Belbita in the striking. It was a great win overall, and I think she looks a lot better at this weight class. Now she's getting a good opportunity at home to show out against Bruna Brasil, and Bruna Brasil has not been impressive. Only 1 win in her 3 fights in the UFC, and it's against bottom of the barrel talent. Shauna, Bannon, who we already talked about. And granted, the fighters that she's losing to are Denise Gomes and Loma Lukwunmi, 2 fighters who are on the rise themselves, but Bruna just does not do enough. She has usually a height and reach advantage. She's a very big girl for this weight class, but she doesn't use it to her advantage.
She's decent everywhere, but not enough output and not enough power. I think Molly is going to have the advantage in the striking, and I think she gets this one done. She can mix in the takedowns if she needs to, and I think she works another finish in this fight. I gotta go Molly here, and I'm picking her by finish, man. Next up, we got Nathaniel Wood taking on Daniel Pineda. Nathaniel Wood, the biggest favorite on the card against a veteran with a 100% finish rate. Not a fight I'm going to be betting on. Pineda is a savage, great, well-rounded fighter. His weakness has always been his cardio. And that's really all you can say, man, because he's got good jiu-jitsu game. He's got a good striking game, 100% finish rate. He's got the power. And now, he's 39. I don't think we are going to see improvement in the cardio, and the age could contribute to how soon he's going to be put out. I'm not fully counting him out because of how complete he is, and that 100% finish rate is insane. But Wood is going to have a speed advantage. He's a well-rounded fighter himself. He's got a 70% takedown defense. He's got great boxing. He was able to outstrike his last 5 opponents. And if it weren't for Naimov cheating in his last fight, we could have, been seeing an undefeated Nathaniel Wood up at featherweight. So, I think Wood is going to use the speed advantage again in this matchup, and he's going to be able to pull off, at the very least, a decision win here. But I think he can get a finish in this fight. Pineda is probably going to go all out, being that, this is potentially one of his last fights in his career. I wouldn't be surprised if the cardio catches up to him again in this fight in the later rounds, where Wood is still going to be pushing the pace and just outworking this guy in the later rounds. So give me Wood here by late finish or decision in this fight. Next up, we got Arnold Allen taking on Giga Chikadze, man. This is a tough matchup here for Giga. I think over a year layoff, and after another surgery, and now he's 35, man. I think there's a lot in favor for Arnold just with that alone. And when we begin to talk about how each of these guys are going to approach this fight, I have to also favor Arnold Allen there as well. Arnold is forward pressure all the time, and Giga has proven that he can't really deal with forward pressure. Arnold was one of the few fighters to have Max Holloway on the back foot, and of course, Holloway still was able to cut angles, still found a way to have success in that fight, was able to work a win. But for Giga, I think Giga needs the distance to get his kicks going, and when the fight is in boxing range, I have to favor Arnold when it comes to power. So, Cater, we saw what Calvin Cater was able to do against Giga. He was able to pressure Giga and force him to fight on the back foot, and Giga was not able to get his kicks going. If Arnold is able to dictate the pace, I think he runs away with this fight. I think he can get a 30-27 decision win here, or even a finish. Giga, he does have a chance, but I think Arnold, coming off of 2 losses in a must-win situation, and he's at home, the year layoff and the 5-year age difference, we got a lot weighing on this fight for Arnold, and I think he gets this one done by decision. I think it's going to be a tough scrap between these two, and I say Arnold is going to have the better half. So give me Arnold Allen here by decision. All right, next up, we got Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Gregory Rodriguez. RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez always brings danger, man, but he's never without getting hurt. All right, so and CLD, classic kickboxer who's a bit more technical than Rodriguez about his approach, but there's no denying that I think Rodriguez is the more complete fighter out of the two. He's got the jiu-jitsu background and doesn't utilize it much, but definitely has that grappling background along with the knockout power in the striking. So he has fallen in love with the striking lately. We're seeing him knocking these dudes out, whether he's getting hurt or not. And CLD, we only know about his kickboxing. You know, he's got good takedown defense as well, but in terms of being able to use all your tools, I think Rodriguez is going to have that advantage. Now, it's going to come down to, does Rodriguez utilize all of his tools? Because, you know, this guy has fallen in love with the striking. He talks about it all the time, and the knockout power is persistent, but against a guy who's going to be a bit more technical, I don't think that's going to be the right approach for RoboCop in this fight when it comes to, you know, keeping this fight standing. So if RoboCop can mix in some takedowns, start getting his grappling going, I think he is the right side, but that's a big if at this point. And CLD, he's got good takedown defense. He knows that he's going to have the better, I think, faster striking out of the two in this fight. And, you know, RoboCop also is a bit of a plotter in there. Not much head movement, heavy on the lead leg. I think CLD has some advantages in this fight when it comes to the stand-up, and just being that RoboCop doesn't usually get the job done without getting hurt, against a guy with this type of knockout power, this much talent on the feet, I think CLD is going to be the side, and I think he gets this one done by finish or decision in this fight, man. I think that RoboCop maybe the more complete fighter, but you just can't count on him to utilize it. And even in the fights where he has gotten dominant positions, like he's gotten the back mount, he's not able to finish these submissions, and he's not able to hold his opponents down. He makes some key mistakes when it comes to the grappling. I've seen it in these fights too much now. So, you know, I wish RoboCop had a submission win, a definitive submission win in the UFC, for me to say that, you know, yeah, he's got the jiu-jitsu background and he knows how to use it. So being that that's not the case, I gotta go CLD here. I think Christian Leroy Duncan gets this one done by finish or decision. Next up, we got Bobby King Green taking on Paddy Pimblett. If this matchup was booked a few years ago, I would have picked Bobby Green as my lock of the week at these odds. I think Bobby is a complete fighter, very capable wherever the fight goes, hands down, walk forward style that helps with the takedown defense, but it has always left him vulnerable. You know, we saw him get finished by Drew Dober. We saw him get just destroyed against Jalen Turner. And Bobby, he's 37 now. You know, I think 2 months away from 38, over 40 professional fights. I think the wear and tear is starting to catch up to the guy. You know, we saw that against Tony Ferguson. He got clipped in that fight before getting the finish. And even in his last one against Jim Miller, although he won unanimously, he still got clipped in that fight. And, you know, these are just things that, you know, Jim Miller, 40 years old, Tony, 39 years old. I think we're just seeing a much more hittable version of Bobby Green at this point in his career. You know, all of these guys are getting a lot older, and Paddy Pimblett on the rise. You know, Paddy definitely not as complete, but in the first round he is a savage. When the fight starts, he tends to fatigue as the fight goes on, and I have to blame the big weight cuts for that. But the striking, man, it's really not on the level that it needs to be for Paddy to be taking on top 15 talent. And I do think that Bobby Green is just outside of that. He's a great grappler, definitely. You know, 10 submission wins out of his 21 wins total. He's got a lot of experience for a guy who's only 29. Man. But I'm on the side of the argument where I just think Paddy has gotten some favorable matchups on his road to the UFC. I think Green will be one of the better, if not best, strikers that Paddy Pimblett has ever faced. And, you know, does Bobby Green play spoiler in Manchester this weekend is I think he has a strong case. But Paddy Pimblett at home, something is spelling that the judges are gonna make a mistake here and give it to Paddy Pimblett, or he can work an early finish. I think Paddy Pimblett is going to be the pick, man. I have to pick Paddy Pimblett here. I think at home with the youth advantage and the power advantage. We've seen Bobby get clipped by Jim Miller. We've seen him get clipped by Tony Ferguson. Very talented strikers in their own regard, but up there in age. And it's just something that maybe we wouldn't have seen in the earlier years of Bobby Green. And we're starting to see them now. You know, Jalen Turner obviously was able to dismantle Bobby Green. Drew Dober, you know, Bobby Green was winning almost every minute of that fight. And it only took one shot from Drew Dober to put Bobby Green's lights out. We could very well see that again here in Manchester. Man, I'm not happy about it, but I'm picking Paddy Pimblett here to get this one done. Next up, we got the co-main event and the first rematch of the two on this card. Now Tom Aspinall taking on Curtis Blaydes. Now we weren't able to get, you know, a good read out of a 15-second fight, but you know, so I do think this is the true first matchup between these two, but it won't be the first time that they have prepared for each other. So I do think it's worth noting that. And you know, Aspinall, he was able to get the knockout over Pavlovich on short notice, and again he showed the world that he can get it done in multiple ways. This guy, you know, the potential is limitless for him right now. 100% finish rate, and he's never won a decision, you know, although I do think he's very capable of winning a decision. I just think this guy brings it. He brings it every time, and he's looking to end the fight however way he can. And you know, he's got knockout power on the feet. He's got a great submission game for a guy at this weight class, and he's just got so much more speed than these other heavyweights as well, man. He moves like a middleweight in there. He's very far from one-dimensional, and that is a word that comes to mind when I think of Curtis Blaydes. You know, I do believe that Curtis Blaydes has been working on his striking. He has been trying to be less one-dimensional, but there's no denying here that Aspinall is going to have the speed advantage when it comes to the fight, staying on the feet. And I think it's going to be in Curtis Blaydes' best interest to get this fight to the ground, where Aspinall, he still is dangerous, but it is Curtis Blaydes' playground if this fight goes to the ground. So, you know, I think Curtis, you know, he's going to have to get this fight to the ground. And because he has been working the striking, I think he's going to be willing to try himself on the feet against Aspinall. He has a tendency to try himself on the feet against, you know, his opponents. We saw that against Derek Lewis. We saw that against Jailton Almeida. And I think that's going to be his downfall. I actually think in this fight it would be best if Curtis Blaydes from the bell just went straight to his wrestling. And, you know, with that tendency to try himself on the feet, I think Aspinall is going to have the advantages on the feet here, and it's just too far in between. So I gotta go Aspinall here. And if this fight goes to the ground, I can see Aspinall working submissions. He's just, like I said, the potential is limitless for this guy. Too many ways to win here. If you are going to be betting Aspinall, I think money line, even though it's blown up now, money line is the side, because we've seen this guy work submission wins. We've seen this guy work knockout wins. Maybe fight doesn't go to distance is a good pick. We could see Tom Aspinall get his first decision win of his career here. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think Tom Aspinall is the side here, and I say he gets this one done. Next up, we got the main event. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of these picks in the comments, man. Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad, the next and last rematch on this card. And that fight was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago when these guys first met in the cage. I thought Leon was up on the scorecards in that first one. He looked like the faster fighter in the striking, and he was able to get a lot of shots off. And, you know, Belal is a guy who tends to build as the fight goes on. I think Belal also took that one on short notice. Unfortunately, though, the eye poke, you know, it prevented us from seeing what could have been a great fight. And, you know, ever since then, Leon has had 3 training camps where he had to prepare for an elite wrestler. All right, Kamaru Usman twice, and then Colby Covington in his very last one. And we saw Kamaru go 5 for 12 on takedown attempts in the first match, and Kamaru got taken down in that fight by Leon, which was a big surprise to us, and it ruined the 100% takedown defense of Kamaru that he had at the time. So, you know, Leon was able to show his wrestling improvements there in that one. Then in the rematch, the trilogy, I should say, Kamaru went 4 for 15 in the trilogy against Leon Edwards on takedown attempts. And then in his very last one against Colby Covington went 2 for 10 on takedown attempts, and Leon was able to get 2 takedowns of his own in that fight. Clearly, we are seeing a lot of improvement for Leon Edwards in the wrestling department, and in turn, I think that's made him a much more complete fighter. Belal, he's going to need to get his wrestling going if he expects to win this fight. And I know he said he can knock out Leon and whatnot, but I really don't see that. I really don't see it. I think Leon is going to have the speed advantage when it comes to the striking, and he overall is the better fighter of the two. I think he's shown that. I think there's really no denying that. But, you know, putting everything together, you can make the case for Belal here. But with all the training Leon has been putting in for these tough wrestlers, I think it's going to do him a lot of favors in this matchup. And I'm going to be picking Leon here to get this one done at home. And I think he gets this one done by decision. You know, only one finish each for both of these guys in a very long time. So I do think it's definitely going to decision. And I say Leon does enough to get it done by, you know, defending some takedowns, having better moments, you know, just overall more output, more damage in this fight. And I think he gets his hand raised at the end of it, man. So I gotta go Leon Edwards. And there you guys have it. Those are my picks and predictions for UFC 304. Hope you guys like it. Comment, let me know what you guys think. As you guys can see, if you are longtime subscribers, I got a new setup here. You know, check the community tabs if you want to catch up on what happened with that. But yeah, we're going to be doing a breakdown with Pick'em MMA later on this week, a betting breakdown with Pick'em MMA for this pay-per-view card. Shout out to Pick'em. And yeah, let me know what you guys think, man. I'm out of here. As always, man. Peace.